I'm a project manager for Trout Unlimited's Washington Water Project, and we work on water rights to try and create a balance of in-stream flow for fish while providing enough water for farmers and ranchers in the region. Anytime you are working with landowners with their water rights, it's pretty contentious. Water is the most important combination of elements on the planet. It basically provides life to everything. My name's Aaron, and I'm a water conservationist.
I work for Free of Farms, and most of our farming operation is east of Moses Lake, Washington. It's one of the best growing regions in all the world. I want to know where my food is coming from, how it is being grown, but as a producer, I want that same land and all those traditions to continue, but in a way that my family can live and prosper off. My name is Travis, and I'm a potato farmer.
I work at Underwood Conservation District in White Salmon, Washington. Landowners, farmers, ranchers, forest landowners can work with me about how to manage natural resources more sustainably. We are the government, but we're a small, friendly version of it. Whether you're a consumer or a producer of food, we need to be more local and seasonal in the food that we eat. My name's Tova, and I manage a conservation district.
I'm the nursery manager at Inland Desert Nursery in Benton City, Washington. We raise the starter plants and supply growers across the state of Washington and all over the country. I work on a family farm, and the decisions we make have to turn a profit. We have to be economically viable if we want to do all that other fluffy stuff. I'm Kevin, and I'm a certified grapevine nurseryman.
The Washington AgForestry program is basically a brilliant idea that somebody came up with to kind of bolster leadership, give people a diverse background of different social issues, environmental issues, political issues, and get them all in the same room to discuss those things and learn from each other. The program separates you into 5 groups, just diverse people with different life histories and different ideas on social and political issues, and it's just a great place for all of us to get together and learn and teach each other different perspectives. And they put you into this group to basically come up with a public policy project to develop and potentially make a change either locally or within the state to potentially better agriculture in Washington state.
Well, we had a lot of heavy discussions about what we wanted to focus on in our project, and surprisingly, we all decided that sustainability was important to us. But then we realized right away that we all had different ideas of what that meant.
And as we kind of moved through the process, it became very clear that sustainable agriculture wasn't an easy topic.
I think everyone has their own interpretation of what it means to be sustainable.
We definitely don't agree on a lot of things, but economics comes first. And I think when I hear sustainability, it's frustration.
It's a word that we aren't real fond of, and kind of is a marketing ploy that we felt had put restrictions on our operations.
We're tackling a huge topic, and it started out super frustrating and kind of still is.
It's a total cluster, for sure. I don't know what sustainability means.
I was a little nervous starting this project because I knew I had a different perspective than Travis and Kevin.
Travis and I were thinking about, frustrated by the tree huggers and people who wanted to save the fish, and then the other group members were, frustrated with Travis and I for thinking about dollars first.
It's not like getting together with all your buddies and talking about things that you all believe in and everybody cheers themselves on, but we do hit issues that affect us all.
And we had many disputes and many frustrations, and did a lot of research and talking amongst ourselves and talking to other folks, and in the process confused ourselves so much that decided it was important to try and confuse other people.
Our group is going to go out and work with 4 different farmers
that exemplified different ways of being sustainable.
Kind of that ranged in growing practices, organic, conventional, hybrids, and diversity as far as different crops that they did. So we did that from a small couple acre farm to 20,000 acre, huge conglomerate.
We're not looking to answer any questions about sustainability. In a way, we're trying to create more questions.
And really work with the personalities on those farms to just get at how confusing and complicated and complex sustainable agriculture really is.
I chose to go to Perpetual Farm because it was a farming operation that challenged my traditional ways of thinking about agriculture and sustainability. Dev, what do you got going on here at Perpetual Farm?
We are 4 acres, kind of organic farm. Tom Douglas is a chef in Seattle. He managed to open 10 restaurants. We thought it would be a good idea to just have a farm that produces seasonal produce for the restaurants so that we can showcase the aspect of the farm-to-table concept.
They certainly have a niche here. They've gone kind of, it sounds like, out of their way to make sure that their chefs and servers have retreats over on this side of the mountain where they're well trained and understand what's going on from a farmer's perspective. That it resonates with people. There's a sexy factor. There's just a warm fuzzy that you get when you sit down at a restaurant, look at a menu, and see a picture of this farm.
It starts a conversation for us that we're in Washington. This is what your state or this is what your region has to offer, and showcase it. We want people to be aware that there is a need for local agriculture. People are more and more interested about where their food is coming from. Like in Seattle, more and more farmers markets started opening up. Small farms delivering it to like local restaurants or doing CSAs. There's this push towards local produce. People should embrace it. Our seasons and our farmers here.
It sounds like you're creating jobs for a handful of local families.
Right, yep. Yeah. And that we want to support local
I see on my personal farm that there is a spot for this. I think I look at it from my perspective though, where we probably start a little bit more from the economic side, making sure things pencil out and then probably trying to do things to become more environmentally sustainable. They've done that a little bit opposite here, and I think have had the opportunity to because of the model of this business. These restaurants can really float this farm, so I think that they've had the opportunity to go about it a little bit differently than probably most businesses would. And I'm kind of curious too. You say you definitely as a farmer, when I'm talking to other farmers, the best way to learn is by amongst your peers and stuff. How can we feed the world like this? Do you see that as something that's possible?
It's hard for us to relate to a farmer who's selling, retail.
You guys are vertically integrated such that you don't have to make money on this end. You'll make it on the restaurant
end. Exactly. I've come across more and more people that are moving towards small farms and wanting to do that. Mm-hmm. There is an immense amount of interest in young farmers to do this because it is sexy and it is awesome.
You bet it
People suck this up. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but that might just last who knows for how long. It's fad. Mm-hmm. It might go away and then we're just like, So we want to come up with...
Perpetual Farm it's a really cool spot to go, and you hear from not only a farmer but a chef that's turned into a farmer, and you get farmers that go over there and maybe try to be chefs, and there's this communication back and forth. What we ultimately are trying to determine here is, can this farm last forever? And we've determined that it was kind of pegged on the performance of these restaurants and whether or not people can afford to go out and eat. This model has its place. It has a wonderful place, but in no way, in my opinion, would this work across our country.
Thanks a lot. All right, thank you. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm still pretty convinced, and I think Dev even probably admitted that it's going to come down a lot to people's paychecks, and a lot of people aren't going to be able to go out and eat like this. There's still going to be a demand for produce grown probably on a more commercial scale at a lower cost that a larger audience can afford.
farm that I visited was Watts Brothers down in southern Washington on the Columbia River. They call the 100 Circle Farm. So, Rich, you mentioned that it was a 100 Circle Farm. How many thousand acres is it?
We have about 22,000 acres of irrigated cropland that we grow potatoes, peas, carrots, corn, grain corn, lots of other things for distribution domestically and some international. Most of our product will go to your quick serve restaurants, major chains, some retail and food service.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about visiting Watts Brothers Farm was to get to see how the technology that they use really makes a difference in the efficiency of their production. So one of the things that was fascinating to me on the tour this morning was just how sophisticated this whole operation is. Could you maybe explain a little bit of how it's developed to be so dependent on technology and what that really means as far as the outcome of the crops that you produce?
We believe that technology is a tool that can help us. We can put sensors on equipment, we can put GPS guided units in our tractors, we can turn water on and off from many miles away and get precisely what we need when we need it at a fairly low cost.
So basically you're using the water you need when you need it.
Right, and only what we need.
Yeah. They certainly do a good job of managing the rotation of their crops, making sure that the soil inputs and the nutrient use and the different rotations are suitable for the whole operation. By being a larger scale farm and having the resources that they have, they're able to afford the technology and afford the opportunity to analyze what resources they need to spend where and how and on what, and ultimately that affects their bottom line.
Well, the economy of scale is helpful to us. We're able to probably invest in a lot of things at our scale simply because we can look at that payback over a much larger volume of acres to help support that.
One of the things I've noticed in my work is that by the farmers and ranchers applying their water more efficiently, they often get a better product and more yield in the end, and that ultimately means more money in their pocket. And that's the same on a large-scale farm like Watts Brothers.
I'm not a farmer.
There may be effort to be sustainable on their farm, and the reason they're doing it may be different from the way I might do it if I was a farmer. But they're so big and it's not as hands-on as a smaller operation might be. Like everything's with giant tractors, and it was managed by a couple people sitting in an office room, not by the farmers themselves.
From what I understood, Oasis Farms was diverse, has a lot of different crops that they grow, and that some of it would be organic and some of it wouldn't, and got a good tour of the place and met with Brent and Roy, the owner and operator. Talked to him quite a bit. He showed us all about the operation.
I'm a fourth generation fruit and hop grower here in Lower Yakima Valley. Took it over from my parents, who left the farm when I was probably around 25 or 26, and I've been farming ever since. Our farm's about 1,500 acres. We grow orchards, mainly apples, stone fruit, apricots, peaches, nectarines, wine grapes and juice grapes. And we grow hops, which was sort of the crop that got my family into farming the 4 generations ago.
The bottom line to me in sustainability is the natural resources that sustain a farm. And Brenton's perspective is you have to have an economic balance, for a business to survive, and that's true.
I think sustainability and having a conscience in today's world is pretty much related. We turn our own compost, we make it here locally, it's right next to the fields that we want to use the compost in. We also have implemented drip irrigation. That to me is sustainable from a water use perspective and from a soil loss perspective. We grow all of our stone fruit organically and all of our berries organically. Those decisions are made almost exclusively from a marketing economic perspective. We wouldn't do it unless we were paid to do it. To me, organic's not sustainable just due to the inputs. I mean, the number of tractor passes and spraying passes and fertilizer passes, and if the whole world were organic tomorrow, I don't think there'd be enough diesel storage in the West Coast to just move the manure around they had to move around to get things fertilized. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's more sustainable. In some respects, I think it's less. The one change you can make in this world that would increase sustainability probably more than any other one change would be convincing the consumer to buy a piece of fruit that's not perfect. If the consumer would just fully understand what the farmer has to do by throwing away fruit that's not perfect or putting inputs into the fields, sprays, all kinds of things that we do. I mean, I'm guessing 30% of what we do on this farm on a daily basis is not about assuring there's nutrition in the fruit. It's about making sure that piece of fruit is pristine.
In the fourth generation now, he has to be thinking about what's going to help the farm survive economically, and it's essential to be viable and to remain alive. So I understand that, but I wish there could be more of a direct tie between the environmental benefits that they see and the economic return.
Badger Mountain Vineyards is located just out of Kennewick and focus on organic production of wines.
We're in the barrel room at Badger Mountain Certified Organic Vineyard and Winery in Kennewick, Washington. About 73 acres of wine grapes here and a production facility that produces about 400,000 gallons of wine every year.
On my way here, I noticed that I drove through a neighborhood that seems to be growing and kind of surrounding you.
You know, running a farm in close proximity to housing can be problematic. They built an elementary school, housing went in. So we decided that if we could cut the impact of what we sprayed, if we could make it a little bit healthier, we thought we'd give that a shot and began the process of organic farming, and since 1988 we haven't sprayed a synthetic chemical in the vineyard.
Have you got any pushback from your neighbors, realizing that they're still in a working ag community?
No, I think that in some ways it's almost an advantage. As an organic farm, they have an opportunity to really witness something in their backyard that's fairly special and unique.
I think Badger Mountain's a great example how they've taken their environment around them, their business model, and adapted it to the future and what they need to do. Sustainability, whether it's vocalized or not, seems like an important part of this operation. What are some of the processes or things that you're going through that move towards that goal?
The first task is to be profitable. If you're not profitable, you can't really sustain anything. And so we started early with becoming certified organic. We spend a little more in labor, a little less in materials. When diesel went up over $4 a gallon, we began looking at converting biodiesel, and so now we collect used cooking oil and actually make the conversion to biodiesel here for under about $2 a gallon. We put in about 2,000 square feet of solar on top of the building here. Payoff on that is about 2.7 years. So in the third year, we'll be generating that power really for free. We make a lot of these decisions based on, I think, sound economic reasons, as well as the environmental impact of those things.
Do you use those angles to market your product?
Yeah, the wine business is a very competitive business. In Washington alone, there's over 700 wineries right now. Badger Mountain wines are one of the few wines that are allowed to carry the USDA organic symbol, and that's certified organic fruit, no additives, no preservatives of any kind. The USDA organic symbol means something to consumers, and I think that's that first point of connection that we make. We try and provide a platform for education for people so that they can understand why we do what we do and what it means in that finished product.
I guess coming in with the organic focus, I already had some preconceived notions on what they did, but that really changed once I got here. They've taken struggles and turned them into opportunities, and that's what a lot of businesses need to do.
It's a scary step to do something new and different. It's difficult enough to run a profitable business or farm without having to do sort of extra things. And
it's often difficult for current producers to get past what their traditional ways of doing business are, and I think a lot of people just get isolated in their day-to-day business. We need to look at new technologies and how we can integrate it into our operations. It seems that Badger Mountain has done very well. How have you guys been profitable and others struggled in the same area?
A shift towards lower impact, towards organic, can be profitable. We've proven it for over 20 years now. It has to be an internal motivation. We know it's a better way to do things, and if we can do that and continue to be profitable, why would you not choose that?
When you're looking at Badger Mountain's operation, these decisions were made because it was the right thing to do. Organic operations can be sustainable, and is every operation able to go organic? I think that's far from the truth. But if you have a sustainable thought process, I think it can be successfully done.
Each of us had to visit a farm that challenged our typical or our standard kind of beliefs of how farming's done, and in order to do that, we had to be open-minded in order to learn anything.
We've been forced to really talk to each other about some difficult issues and realize we don't agree, and then
that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay first, and then but yeah, it does force us to have a more productive conversation about it too.
I feel like I was challenged through this whole process. I feel like I'm coming away a more well-rounded farmer, but more importantly, a more well-rounded person, and because of my interactions with the three of you and the rest of our class.
I've learned a lot from you guys, Travis and Kevin, in terms of how the reality of farming and some of the easy decisions we think we make at the consumer level, how that really could come back to the farm and the impacts of those decisions. It's pretty neat to see that perspective.
Through this process and through the Perpetual Farm, I've learned to cooperate and listen to different perspectives that I necessarily wouldn't have had before. And like Kevin, I really thank you guys for that experience.
Sustainability is more complicated than the standard consumer thinks, and sustainability is going to mean something different for each of those settings. think the more that a culture and a society can value where its food comes from, the more sustainable that food system is going to be.
The consumer's actions are what dictates all the way down what retailers are doing, what producers are doing, and what's happening. To really understand the issues, you have to understand the other side of the issue before you can make judgments on things. To get anything accomplished, there has to be compromise in everything you do. What I've learned is to understand where the other side is coming from before I make judgments on where I think that they should go. For the most part, people want what's best for themselves, for their families, for their communities, and they're making the decisions every day to make that happen. But sometimes we get so focused on the ones that misstep a little bit that kind of takes center stage.
We all need to eat, and our food comes from of various different production practices, and I don't think that it's necessarily one size fits all. It's a gamut of different sizes and a lot of diversity within those sizes. We have to continue to educate the consumer and get people to choose their food wisely, which will direct the farmers.
Consumers are, they're voting or they're making these choices with the checkbook. I mean, that's driving all of this back to the farmer. My understanding of sustainability, I think, has evolved and become more open-minded to other ways of thinking. I still definitely think there is need for balance, somehow kind of coming to the middle a little bit. I think that I've arrived at a really nice place on what sustainability can look like on a larger scale.